You ever have one of those moments where you look at your business account and you think, how the hell are we this busy and I still feel stressed about money? Like, seriously, invoices are going out, money is coming in, the schedule is packed. And from the outside, people probably think you're doing great. Meanwhile, internally, you're sitting there wondering why the business still feels financially heavy all the damn time. And honestly, I think this is one of the most isolating feelings for contractors because nobody talks about this part publicly. Everyone talks about revenue and growth and those big jobs and the big months, but almost nobody talks about what it feels like when the business technically works, but somehow still feels exhausting to carry. And I think a lot of contractors are living there right now. The business looks successful, but internally, it feels like you can never fully relax. Maybe your payroll hits and your stomach tightens a little. Maybe one unexpected expense instantly stresses you out. Maybe more money comes in, but disappears so fast you barely even feel relief anymore. Maybe you're doing more revenue than you've ever done before, but somehow you feel more pressure now than when the business was smaller. And that does mess with people mentally because eventually you start asking yourself, what exactly am I missing here? With how hard I'm working, why does this still feel financially stressful? And honestly, that's the conversation we're having today. So welcome. I'm Shannon Howard, and today we are talking about why businesses can make money while the owner still feels broke emotionally. Because revenue and financial stability, they're not the same thing. And I think this episode is going to hit way too close to home for some people. Most business owners I talk to are busy. They're booked out, they've got a great reputation, they're doing everything right. But when they actually sit down and look at their numbers, something doesn't quite add up. The profit doesn't match the effort, and it's usually not a sales problem. It's a visibility problem. I'm Shannon Howard. I work with HVAC owners, electricians, plumbers, and contractors to uncover hidden profit, fix those leaks, and help you keep more of what you earn. This is Profit Isn't an Accident. Because nobody talks about this side of business ownership. Nobody talks about the fact that contractors have money coming in and still feel anxious every single month. And honestly, that anxiety gets exhausting after a while because you almost start feeling guilty for being stressed. You think, well, we've got work, we're doing okay, other people have it worse. Meanwhile, internally, you're carrying pressure nonstop. And maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you're sitting at your kid's basketball game, but mentally you're thinking about payroll. Maybe your wife is talking to you at dinner and you're barely listening because your brain is trying to figure out why cash flow feels tight again. Maybe a truck breaks down and your entire mood changes instantly because now you're thinking, perfect, another expense. That stuff wears on people emotionally. And honestly, I think contractors carry more emotional pressure than almost anybody else realizes because everyone depends on them. Employees depend on them. Customers, come on, let's be honest. Customers depend on you. Your family depends on you. Vendors depend on you. And when your business constantly feels financially tight, that pressure becomes heavy. Especially when your business looks successful from the outside. And that's the part people don't understand. People see the trucks, the jobs, the invoices, the movement, but they don't see the stress, the financial anxiety, the sleepless nights, the mental load of holding everything together constantly. And honestly, that disconnect can feel incredibly lonely for business owners because externally, everybody assumes that you're doing amazing. Meanwhile, internally, the owner is thinking, then why does this feel so damn stressful? And honestly, that question usually means something deeper is happening underneath the business financially. Because healthy businesses should not constantly feel fragile. That matters. And I think some contractors have normalized financial pressure so deeply, they honestly believe this is just what business ownership is supposed to feel like. Constant stress, constant urgency, constant pressure. Meanwhile, their nervous system is completely fried. And honestly, I think some contractors have not truly relaxed mentally in years, not fully, even during vacations or weekends or family time. The business is still running in the back of their mind nonstop because unresolved financial pressure follows people everywhere emotionally. And what makes this worse is contractors are hard workers. So when the business feels financially tight, the automatic response becomes work harder, right? More hours, more jobs, more sacrifice, more hustle. But honestly, you cannot outwork weak profitability forever. Eventually, the pressure catches up, mentally, physically, emotionally. And I think there are contractors listening right now who are way more burned out than they even admit. Not because they hate the trades, not because they hate entrepreneurship, but because the business underneath them feels financially exhausting to carry. Now let's talk about the real issue here, because this is where contractors get trapped. Money is coming in, but it leaves just as fast. And after a while, that starts making people feel crazy because you think we're making great money, so why does it never feel like it? And honestly, that's because revenue and retained profit are two completely different things. Revenue is movement, profit is what stays. That's the difference. And I think a lot of contractors accidentally build businesses designed for revenue instead of businesses designed for profit. That's dangerous because revenue hides problems really well. When your money is moving, you can convince yourself, you know what, we're doing pretty good. Meanwhile, underneath that surface, margins are getting crushed. And honestly, a lot of contractors have no idea how much money quietly disappears through underpricing, labor creep, callbacks, fuel, downtime, inefficiency. I mean, the list goes on. Your overhead is growing. There's disorganization. You have poor systems. And that stuff compounds fast. And individually, most of it does not feel catastrophic. And that's why people ignore it. A little extra labor here, a supply run there, an employee standing around waiting, a callback nobody billed for, a rushed estimate, or a customer issue that you just handle. And over time, these little leaks become enormous financially because the business stays busy. The owner stays focused on revenue instead of leakage. And that's the trap. And honestly, some contractors are doing more revenue than ever, which makes less money emotionally. That's real. Because growth without healthy margins creates pressure, not freedom. And I think this surprises contractors because everyone assumes that more revenue is less stress. But honestly, I've seen businesses double revenue and somehow become more financially fragile because the structure underneath the growth was weak. Now suddenly you have more payroll, more trucks, more overhead, more moving parts, more chaos without enough profit underneath to support all the pressure. And eventually the owner realizes the business only works if I never stop moving. And that realization is dangerous because now the business depends entirely on nonstop effort to survive. And honestly, that's where burnout explodes. You know what I think most people underestimate is how much weak profitability affects someone emotionally. Seriously, the margins create this emotional exhaustion, this roller coaster, because when there's not enough breathing room financially, everything feels stressful. Slow weeks are feeling terrifying to you. Unexpected expenses feel catastrophic. Employees feel heavier. I spoke to somebody last week that was like, I downsized my entire team because I just couldn't handle it anymore. Growth feels scarier. And the owner becomes emotionally reactive to everything. Everything is a fire, and that's exhausting. And honestly, I think some contractors are carrying levels of stress their families don't even fully understand, because mentally they never shut off, ever. They're constantly thinking, how much is in the account? What's payroll look like this week? Can we handle this expense? Why does cash flow feel weird again? That mental load becomes overwhelming after a while, especially when your business looks successful externally. And honestly, I think contractors quietly blame themselves for this. They think, maybe I'm just bad at business. But most of the time, the issue is not effort. The issue is visibility. They simply do not see where the money is leaking, where margins are weak, where inefficiencies are compounding. And because they don't see it clearly, they respond emotionally instead of strategically. More hustle, more pressure, more grinding, because that's what you know. But eventually your body keeps score and everything shows up eventually, especially burnout. Eventually your business starts feeling heavier every single year instead of lighter. And honestly, that's not what entrepreneurship is supposed to become. I think a lot of contractors are carrying way more pressure than people realize, because from the outside, everyone sees your trucks, your jobs, your revenue, your movement. But again, they don't see everything else that you're carrying, that constant responsibility. And after a while, this all gets heavy, especially when your business keeps making money, but never seems to create actual breathing room. And I really want contractors to hear me when I say this. You're probably not failing. You're probably carrying a business that has hidden financial leaks underneath it. And that is different, because broken businesses can be fixed. Weak margins can be fixed. Operational chaos can be fixed. Visibility can be fixed. But first, you have to stop assuming that more hustle is the answer to everything, because eventually nonstop grinding catches up mentally. And honestly, I think contractors deserve businesses that actually support their lives instead of consuming them. That's the goal. Not just revenue, not just survival, but actual stability, actual clarity, actual breathing room. And that starts by understanding where the money is going. I appreciate you guys being here, but it's time to get off the sidelines. If you're ready to do the work, you know where to find me. And I'll see you on the next episode. If this hit, there is a reason. Most businesses aren't broken. They just don't have clear visibility into where the money's actually going. So if you want help finding it, grab my free Profit Edge playbook or book a quick session with me. You'll find everything in the show notes. And if you haven't already, follow the show so you don't miss what's next.